Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Fario. In Guyana, Nigel Damle, a member of the cabinet there and a member of the National Assembly, the Minister of Regional Development, has escaped a possible trial on rape charges. The victim in the case has said that the allegations that she made, she will not go forward with it, and she's informed police. The police issued a statement saying that she will not proceed with the matter further. The 16-year-old, as you will recall, the narrative covered this last week, where a 16-year-old accused Damle of raping her back in December at his home and sodomizing her. However, the story, it went viral, of course, and now it seems to have taken a new turn, with the virtual complainant saying that she will not proceed. She was in the care of child protection authorities, and the police say that in the presence of a child protection representative and a parent, she gave a video statement to the police saying that she will not proceed. Joining me on The Narrative now is Kemraj Ramjatan. He is one of the founders of the Alliance for Change, the AFC, opposition in Guyana, and a member of the National Assembly. He's also an attorney at law, and he's been taking an interest in the case. Of course, the opposition calling for the resignation of Nigel Damle because of this incident. The minister had proceeded on administrative leave just a day before he was arrested on June 19. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Callistra, and happy to be in your program.
It's good to have you on. Well, certainly an interesting, maybe not surprising, but interesting turn of events with the 16-year-old victim in this matter telling police that she will not proceed with it. How is the opposition reacting to this turn?
Well, we were all the time indicating that a massive cover-up will be the end result, but we had still a hope that the institutions of the state will work to ensure that justice be done. Suffice to say that the end result here is a collapse of the case as a result of, I'm absolutely certain, because of being literally locked away for days, not being allowed to see her lawyer. Her mom had asked me to go and give her some legal advice independent of what was being given by the Child Protection Agency and the state institutions, like say the police and so on. And I was denied access. I was there in the Commonwealth Street, Georgetown branch, waiting for 2 hours to get hold of her, and I was denied. I was even denied to be there with the brother, who had to give a supporting statement to the Child Protection Agency, and I just couldn't have access. Now, all I believe, and it is now confirmed, and I'm vindicated in that feeling, that they wanted to, get the girl not to want to testify, not to want to give a statement, and to withdraw a statement once given. Well, she had given right up to that morning, I understand, very compelling, convincing statements of sodomy and rape. And we are hoping that there will be some whistleblowing as to what statements. I am pleading with some of the Child Protection Agency offices to come out and state what those statements are, so that the whole world will see what the girl gave. And once that is a statement that sufficiently base a rape and sodomy charge, an oral sex charge and all of that, we would have to question the other state players like the DPP, what it is then that they wanted more to ask of the police further investigations and so on. It could very well be that there was largely from the state institutions a complicity then for purposes of getting the girl so pressured that she was going to literally withdraw and say no further police prosecution or no further police action. And this is but, Callistra, a total reversal of that new legislation that we passed in 2010, we had a pretty anachronistic legal regime on rape and sodomy and so on. And in 2010, as a result of UNICEF supporting us, as a result of the fact that so many sexual offenders were getting off because of the bad habits of the police in their investigation and even at the trial, we then set up a brand new legal regime, the Sexual Offenders Act. Only last night, in preparation for this interview, I said I might as well go and check the Hansard of 2010. And there it was, the then Minister Priya Manik-Chan indicating what are the benefits of this new act. That is, special measures to assist the victims even at the stage of investigation, like taking the statements and all of that. And increasing the comfort levels, because we know, especially young children, sexual offenses, indigenous peoples, and all of that, they're vulnerable. And to the extent now that this state institutions have caused a collapse of this case, it means that the entirety of our Sexual Offences Act of 2010 has been made de minimis, as it were. And it's a big shame. As a matter of fact, if that minister now gets off from criminal prosecution, I think the shame will be greater than the exoneration. Because from what the girl said, it is a heinous crime, a totally heinous crime. And then from additionally what we know that she said, that is the room where the incident happened being altered, repainted, and so on. So when she then went on the 20th to check out that scene, what we call Locus and Co., it all was altered. And then some big bribe of 10 million Guyana dollars being passed on. And so...
You talk about a bribe of 10 million Guyanese dollars being passed on. Could you elaborate on that, please? Is there any sort of...
The girl in her statement indicated that her parents apparently was touched by the minister, who then indicated that he is very sorry for what he did, and that an amount of money that was paid over, $10 million, was never going to correct the situation and all of that. And look, there are lots of other things more than just bribe. We have seen also the altering of the scene. We have seen a violation of the standing there. Go now to the scene that is the actual house of the minister. The minister was not to be there, because that can create psychological damage to the girl if he was there. And you know, in violation of the instruction, we understand that he was there, and they had to remove him before the girl can go. So a massive set of undermining of the protocols and the codes and so on. And I have to tell you too, apart from bribe and all of that, when I went there to speak to her at the instruction asking that I do that, I was denied. There is another lawyer that the father had took, Dexter Todd, and he too, he was overseas, but I understand he sent two of his juniors there, and they too couldn't get to see the girl. So there is a massive cover-up, and I believe that this thing will have to go further than this. We in the Alliance for Change asking the United Nations Child Rights or Rights of the Child personnel to investigate. It is these people who literally assisted us in creating the conditions for a brand new law. Great speeches the then ministers gave. Well, indeed, she gave a statement that she does not want any further action to be taken in the matter. That, however, does not mean that what she said about the rape and the sodomy and the oral sex are untruths. That does not mean that what was said about the alteration of scene of the crime, that is the bedroom in the house of the minister, is an untruth. That does not mean that monies that were paid to her parents is an untruth. All of that, we understand, was given by her in her statement to the police. And so the matter as it is presently must be further investigated, and the Guyana Human Rights Association has come out with a piece that, notwithstanding no further investigation or action to be taken by her, has indicated that in the public's interest, the protocol talks something about public's interest in sexual offences, that this matter should be pursued, and to clear the air, as it were, as to why under that 10-day period, or how long she was in protective custody, as they call it, if that might have been the reason why she has taken this position. The pressures of that, the pressures of being denied, the pressures of being denied the counsel and all of that. I do not believe that the matter is finished there, but the file is now going to go back to the DPP for the DPP to make a pronouncement. But as far as we are aware, all the statements from the girl, her brother, the medical examiner that examined her, it is such a compelling case for rape and sodomy. And as to why further investigations was asked. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was saying, and the fact that if it can be proven that the $10 million did exchange hands, and it can be connected to the minister, that in itself is evidence of possible guilt. Is it not?
Well, that is of course, that will take the form of another investigation against the minister, perversion of the course of justice. And I don't know if that was what the file was given for further investigations by the police, because the police ought to know, under the protocols of sexual offenses, you do not go and start other investigations that can cause the girl to have psychological problems and then close up shop as she did. You're supposed to wait probably a little later. And that is why I'm saying that this thing was not properly done at all. You then go charge the minister for the sexual offenses, and then you will deal with altering room and $10 million being paid out and all of that.
We're looking here if those allegations was to go to trial and evidence was collected, tampering with evidence, the bribery, perversion of justice. It's a whole slew of offenses that could possibly arise from this if those statements given by the girl are true and can be proven.
Absolutely. And that is why we find that the president, in not acting with any expedition of getting rid of that minister, he's put him on administrative leave at the request, by the way, of the minister. And that is a shame, because any president would understand the concept of individual ministerial responsibility, which, when there are personal indiscretions, as we know, coming from a Westminster kind of a democracy, as we all in the Caribbean have come from, you have to immediately ask that minister, please go along your way. Take a walk. We understand now that the minister is still giving instructions to his staff and so on at the ministry, and he's on an administrative leave. This is shameful, you know. So it is important that this concept of individual ministerial responsibility come into play. That has nothing to do with the presumption of innocence. Presumption of innocence has to do with a criminal trial. So even though he's going to be exonerated in the sense of not having a criminal trial at this stage, there is at the political stage, he being a cabinet minister and also a parliamentarian, that this kind of conduct or misconduct ought not to be countenanced by any president or prime minister. In Guyana, we got the presidential system, and the president is our chief executive. He's the embodiment of the chief executive. He then gives his ministers portfolio roles, just like the prime minister of your country. So now and he is there at the, what you call, pleasure of that president. So the president could have asked him, please just go and move out, and, after all of this has been brought to the attention of the president. The president must know by this stage what the girl said to that non-governmental organization that is supposed to have a forensic interview. The president must know that. So notwithstanding, the girl might very well, because of the psychological stress and the health concerns now, mental health concerns, has done a withdrawal, that doesn't mean that minister should be there. It is not a concept of presumption of innocence doesn't apply.
So
exactly. The very great standards we put.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And that is why we parliamentarians, there is a presumption in that you have to behave properly. You don't go and screw around and sodomize indigenous young girls, 16 years. What nonsense is that? And then go and tamper with the evidence? He should be sacked and permanently not have any role to do with our parliament or cabinet. This is the height of the most heinous of crimes and criminalities and injuries. In England, we had a man named Profumo screwed around with some prostitute, and he had to go. Boris Johnson the other day had some party inside his prime minister's office. He had to go. And for minuscule things, this what you call in the convention of individual ministerial responsibility. Because how now could he become in parliament and start talking on any matter whatsoever? And it will do the party and government a tremendous harm if they keep this fella around. But I think there's a lot of arrogance that is being shown up here.
I saw a video where Nigel Damle was saying to someone in your parliament that they need a dildo. Is that an indication of the kind of person that he is?
He was never a fit and proper candidate for parliamentary status, much less cabinet status. But he is well known to be a good organizer within the interior areas to bring in votes for the PPP. This fella, last year I think it was, had the gall to tell an opposition parliamentarian who was present in parliament that you need a dildo. That is what you want. And you know what? The speaker asked by another parliamentarian that this fellow is misbehaving. You know who was reprimanded and was suspended for 4 sittings of the parliament? The fellow who was telling the speaker that, hey, this fellow is behaving bad. My AFC parliamentarian, his name is Sherrod Duncan. He does a very prominent program here called In the Ring. He was the one that was penalized. And of course, he then went and gave a half-scald kind of a apology, and he gets off. When I was public security minister, this chap took his gun and forcibly pointed it to the head of an IDB official who was having coffee, I think, with his former wife. His wife had divorced him. And this man gone and tell the IDB official that you can't be seen with my wife and all of that. An investigation was done, but the man was so scared. This is what came out of the matter. The man was so scared, the IDB official. He took the next plane out of Guyana. And the police at that point in time indicated that he was not interested in what is called any prosecution, and the matter died as a result. But the statements were given. Even his firearm was then later taken away and so on. This is the kind of fellow we're talking about.
And it seems that we're heading down the same road of a prosecution ending because the witness, the virtual complainant, the main witness of the prosecution, is not willing to go to court and give evidence. It seems as if this is the road that we're heading down with this matter. But can just the statement of the young lady withdrawing her complaint be sufficient to stall the investigation? Under your system, your rules, regulations, and laws, is there any room for the DPP and the other arms of the state, if they are willing, to proceed with this matter, proceed with this investigation anyhow, even with the position that the young lady has now taken?
I think it would be extremely difficult, because I rather suspect that that is exactly what all of them wanted. They know that this minister was going down. They were really of that opinion. And the only way to save that minister from decades of harm was to do exactly this. That is my opinion. And that is what has happened here now. But as I said, there is a flickering hope based on that code that the Guyana Human Rights Association, Mr. McCormack, has indicated in yesterday's newspaper, which may have, if the DPP is so minded, which may have at least that turn of events, which could be, let's talk back to the girl and indicate that she gets a lot more comfortable with new circumstances so that she can maintain wanting to go ahead with the prosecution. A massive injustice would have been done to her, her country, or the whole of Guyana, and all of that, if indeed a prosecution doesn't happen here.
All right, I want to thank you so much for joining me on The Narrative. Cameron Ramsutan, of the member of the Guyana National Assembly and leader of the Alliance for Change in Guyana, and also attorney at law. Thank you so much for joining us on The Narrative, sir.
Thank you so much, my dear.
All right. This is The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Calistra Farrier Mo. When we come back, Daisy Hazard from the Public Workers Union in Grenada joins me. They've reached a settlement with the Deacon Mitchell-led administration on salary increases for the next 3 years, as well as fringe benefits, some ground being broken with this round of negotiations. We understand the PRO will talk to us about that. More when we come back.